Sawabona family, in the classroom today, we are whole. Every single episode of the Critically Conscious Classroom is now available to you on YouTube, and we are so excited about it.
It's been amazing watching all the ticks, all those views just increase every time we go and check. So thanks to all of you out there for helping to make this happen. And we're always welcome to any of the feedback. And today we have an amazing special guest, my boss, Dr. Edgar Zazueta, the Executive Director of State ACSA. We have lots of things to talk about. So stay tuned because the Critically Conscious Classroom is next.
Microphone check 1 2 1 2. Welcome to the Critically Conscious Classroom, where we are obviously live today from sunny Sacramento. I am your co-host, or one of your co-hosts, as well as ACSA's Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Anthony Robinson.
And I'm your other co-host, Dr. Tracie Noriega, ACSA Senior Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Professional Learning. And welcome. I feel like 2 weeks has been a long time. And it was just 2 weeks ago. So I'm glad we're back. I'm glad we're back today. And again, very excited about our guest who will be talking to us about the DEI work that we've been doing, what the vision is, where we're going, all of the things. So help us out and put some questions in the chat.
Speaking of the chat, let me say this too, Dr. Noriega. We are not on StreamYard anymore, right? And so the reason I bring that up is because I had to let y'all know last episode, so I'm reminding you again. In order to comment back to us, you have to log into YouTube. So we're asking you, if you're not currently logged into YouTube and you're watching us live, please log in right now, set up an account, whatever you need to do, log in through your Gmail so that we can hear from you, because we certainly want to engage with you today.
Yes. As always, we begin with our land acknowledgement. So today we're coming to you from, as Anthony said, from Sacramento. And I know many of you are coming from other, tribal territories. Here in Sacramento, we have a number of tribes that have come together and all around the Sacramento and the American rivers. So I want to acknowledge that the land acknowledgement is just one way. It's actually the start of potential conversations about how we got here, right? And what our actions are towards moving towards hopefully land back, but also how we are being stewards of the land, how we are caring for it, how we are paying attention to climate justice. So many layers of things, and maybe that potentially could be one of our topics moving forward.
Absolutely. I also want to acknowledge a couple of things real quick too. So I know we're close to the end of the school year for some and at the end of the school year for others. So I want to give a quick shout out, a really quick shout out to my daughter, London Robinson. She just graduated from 8th grade, so she's headed to high school. Really excited for her. Also want to give a shout out to my son, Kyle Robinson, who's wrapping up 6th grade, headed to middle school. So shout out to all the graduates, whatever grade you're graduating from, but also shout out to you, all the educators, all the parents, all the community members, all of you all watching who support our kids, who work with our kids, who love on our kids. But we want to ask you all this. Well, two questions. So first was, what was your happiest or most memorable moment from this school year? And then the second question is, what are you most excited for this summer? So I can tell you this. I'm most excited to not have to wake up super early to have to get my kids to school. I'm happy to be able to sleep in, even if it's just for an additional 15 minutes, but I'm really happy about that. So again, in the chat, what was your happiest or most memorable moment from this school year? Also, what are you looking forward for this summer? And
That's
hopefully we have some people who can comment back to us today.
hopefully people are talking about rest, right?
Yes,
Rest in different forms. So
absolutely.
remember, rest can come in naps. Rest can come in, increasing your hours of sleep. And by the way, do you know how many hours of sleep you require?
Right.
Rest can come in the form of spending time, with particular folks. Rest can come in many forms. So I do hope in the chat you share what that potentially looks like. And I also want to, yes, thank all of you, the educators out there who are winding down another school year. Having not been in a school district the last couple of years, I am definitely missing the graduation and the promotion ceremonies, all of the end of the year activities. My favorite day of school is the first day of school. And my second favorite day, or second favorite, are all the events at the end of the year, especially the graduations from like continuation high schools. So I want to shout out Dr. Simone Charles, who sent me this message earlier this week. She asked me to be the keynote speaker for Walt Whitman Continuation High School.
Congratulations.
Out of all of the requests that I get, this one touched me so much. I cried. And I don't do that very often. I should, but I don't. So thank you, Dr. Charles, for the invitation.
And shout out to Neri. Neri, we didn't miss your comment. So Neri says what he's looking forward to is floor time with his grandsons. So yeah, that's an exciting time. Mine aren't on the floor anymore, but I miss those days as well. So congratulations to you, Neri.
Oh, grandchildren. Yes, I'm looking forward to that too this summer. But we have a special guest, our special guest today.
Yes.
And we have been waiting to get Dr. Zazueta on for, a number of shows. And the timing, right? The timing always works out. So let's get Dr. Zazueta into the StreamYard, into the picture frame. And he is not new to this, because this whole thing started with Ledge Lunch Break. And I understand that it's been 5 years. I remember when Ledge Lunch Break came on. It was the thing to watch when we were all stuck, and doing Zoom school.
Yeah, Tracie, I gotta say, just even seeing your guys' intro here, the first couple minutes, you're off to a way better start than we started with the lunch break. It was, Michael was just showing us a few of the clips from day one. It was looking a little rough, right? We definitely weren't as polished as both of you. I have to say, coming in with the intro, I'm gonna, I'm putting. I was feeling your guys' intro, the beats, everything about it. So, no, congratulations to both of you. I was excited to have a new addition to our ACSA media network here, right? Our ACSA podcast, video network, and video series and whatnot. So, no, it's been awesome, and I just appreciate you two. For giving our folks yet another outlet. I think one that is really needed right now, just given all of the issues, given everything that we're facing. So just appreciate the work on that front. Shout out to your kids, Anthony. I know I'm in the same boat. Like I have a fifth grader and an 11th grader. My daughter, who's got one more year. She's like anybody who has a junior in high school, they're stressing about everything with the applications. I'm sure it's going to be an interesting fall dealing with the college applications and whatnot, but I'm looking forward to that. But but my kids, and this shout out to the educators here in Sac City. While they're here, everybody going, and celebrating last days of school for whatever reason, we still, my kids are in school for another 2-3 weeks, so they're gonna be grinding for a little bit longer there. So like for those of you that aren't out, I know I'm sure they're having FOMO as everybody's starting their summer. Hang in there, a few more weeks.
Yes.
So Sac City needs to get on the bandwagon with ending semester 1 at the winter break.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that's trust me. I've seen the whole debate that's been having there about like post AP test, and and I for the teachers on the ground, and you guys could relate to this. Like, just I can only imagine just the challenge there, just to keep the kids now focused and getting them there through the end, especially in those grades where you're doing end of year testing or those culmination events. So yeah, it's been a long-standing conversation there, Sac City. So for whatever it's worth, yeah, I'm in the same boat. We could adjust it, but I know they're working on it.
Well, one could say that is an equity issue, but
yeah,
we
digress
like
the connection
just a little bit. We digress. But let's get into the first question. Right.
Wait, Dr. Noriega, where's the story? There's always a story with the guest. You forgot that. What's your story?
What's the story? So many. So many.
I'm nervous now. I don't this wasn't in the script.
We always do. It's true. We always try and give our flowers right away. And I do tend to. So I will say this. When I applied for this position as the Senior Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion at the time, it wasn't necessarily something that I was looking for. And again, going back to timing, going back to, things that are potentially meant for you, the universe has its ways, whatever, however way you want to look at it. And I think that was it for me. So I just want to appreciate you, Dr. Zazueta, for elevating this position, for being, making it such a statement, because it is a statement.
Yeah.
Right? It's a statement that reflects our values as ACSA, that reflects, the necessity for it. It reflects the fact that we need to have explicit conversations, and it reflects the fact that everything that we do has to be grounded, in this work. And equity is a means; it's not the end goal. We know that, right? But I do appreciate all of your support. That you've given to me, that you've given to, to us and this department, if you will, to do the really good work and to support our administrators in that regard. So someone asked me the other day, how's it going? Were they mad at me? This person was asking, were they mad at me for suggesting this job? And no, I'm not. I've loved every minute of being here, supporting members on this side, having been a member myself for over 20 years. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
And your support. Yeah.
And let me say this real quick before we jump into the question, because I'm trying to give flowers too. So Dr. Zazueta, I'm always giving flowers, obviously, to folks like Nicole Anderson, Audrey Mack, Joe Jones, the people who've really invested in me, because obviously without them, there's no me. But without you too, there's no me. Tracie often, when I first started, would tell me the story like, hey, I was brought in as the senior director and I met with our executive director to let him know that I need a partner in this work. So I really want to thank you for that. But to take it a step further, I'll never forget my first day here at ACSA. I was doing some onboarding tasks and Dr. Noriega reached out to me and she said, hey, I need you to come upstairs because I need you to come into our cabinet meeting. I was like, for what? I'm not a cabinet member. And you asked me to sit in front of the entire cabinet. And the first question you asked me was, why ACSA? And why do you want to do this work? And that stayed with me for the entire year plus that I've been here. For two reasons. One, because it showed me that you were really committed, one, to get to know me and look at me beyond someone who just got hired to work here. Two, that showed a true commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, that you really wanted to make sure, one, obviously you trusted Tracie, but you wanted to, see me with your own eyes. But three, as an executive director, you have so much on your plate. So for you to even take that time and interrupt your meeting, though it was a short time, to bring me in and to really hear my thoughts, I really appreciate you for doing that. We can jump into.
I appreciate. I just thank you both of you on that. And Anthony, I know most people, you reacted well. Sometimes and that's I kind of have that tendency when somebody comes in and I'd be like, hey, just put them on the spot. Some people feel like they're getting interviewed all over again, but no, you handled that well. So I appreciate that. And by the way, you guys are way nicer to me than Naj is on lunch break. So I just want to say that for the record. I'm going to remind him of that as well.
Well, it is about, kindness in lots of ways.
Absolutely.
So first question. Looking back on your 3 years as executive director, how has the organization grown in its commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion? Obviously, we just front loaded a bunch of things.
Yeah.
If you want to elaborate, please do.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you guys just kind of summarize some of those efforts, right? It's been an interesting journey, and I think one that I'm preaching to the choir here, and I think the folks, you two, but not only you two, but I know the community of folks that really are the heart of this work, that are the people, that the reason why we have this program in here at ACSA, who have been at this way before we had a director of equity, way before we had this elevation that Tracie was talking about. You know, like there was people that really were on the ground level way before any of us. I mean, I always have to give a shout out to my predecessor, Dr. Wes Smith, because I know he did a real symbolic thing, right? Like, and I think he did start this work about you. Anthony talks about Nicole Anderson, you know, our first DEI director here, and that was at a time where that wasn't the norm, right? And we've gone through this swing over the last couple of years where, yeah, I do think we were at the ground level of not just talking about equity. I mean, it's really easy to be it being a talking point, and you put it in your strategic plan, and you know, and we're putting it in our goals. But what is that going to mean day to day? What is that going to mean for the organization? And credit to Wes, before I got here, is to taking that first step, that we were going to have somebody dedicated to that work full time, that was going to be their job. And then we've had a few individuals after that. And I thought when I was given the opportunity to come into this role, obviously it goes without saying that I wanted to not only, how do I continue this, but elevate it. And I think what Tracie talked about was my focus, and it really became an opportunity. We recruited and hired Dr. Noriega to run our professional development services. But going back to, I hear Nicole Anderson in my head, in my ear, where she was here, and I think both of you had just talked about this, that if we're going to be true about equity, that it's a lens that we have to look at everything through, right? It's not like the one tendency, and then that, you know, and I'll come back to where we're at now. I know we're going to talk about this, but one of the things that I always worried about in terms of the equity work is that we were just going to, let's check the box, right? With our leadership assembly, let's have an equity presentation. We're going to have, you know, a conference. Let's check the box. I really thought that if we were going to do this work justice, if we were going to really be about the work, and we could get into, I think it's even as when we're talking about friends, I think it's really good to recenter what is it that we're talking about, that work, right? It's like, it's helping those students, it's helping those communities that have been underserviced, you know, that have been that need more support, right? And I thought that the best way to do that is, obviously, who do we impact? Is our members, right? That's we always like to say that we're an organization that puts the needs of students first. How do we do that? It's through our training, it's through our development of our leaders. And so I saw it as an opportunity. If we're really going to be about this, that equity is going to be a through line on everything, then the best way we do that, it's not to have it as its own separate thing out here. Let's make sure we're integrated in terms of everything that we do. And I always say, I mean, I think folks know my background. I came through the government relations and the advocacy pathway to this job. But I really honestly think that the place where we touch the most administrators, the most leaders in the state, is through the programs that you guys lead. It's through our professional development. It's through our professional learning. So it was an opportunity. I mean, I think that's the part that I am most proud of really trying to integrate that now equity, DEI is at the heart of all of this that we do with our members, right? It's a process. I don't have to tell both of you, right? And then we've done a lot of things. ACSA is 50 years old. And we've been doing a lot of things, it feels like, the same way for 50 years. And that's not unone. And that not means that all of that's negative, but I think it's a process about how do we take this hard look in the mirror and really meet the ever evolving needs of our members, but ultimately our students.
Yeah, the mirror work is always the hardest. And I know that's a huge part of equity work, right? Is sometimes putting the mirror up to folks, right? But it's even harder to turn the mirror on ourselves. So, you know, with with me on board, Anthony on board, and then building off of all of the things that Nicole, Joe Jones, Ad and I did, right? We can go a lot further. And we also count on our members to support that. So,
shout out to the equity committee and all those folks behind there who have really been driving every single, everything we do on that front. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, don't forget, we're a council now.
Somebody's gonna get me on that. Hey, the names matter, words matter, as we know, right? So yeah, absolutely. No, and well deserved. I think just elevating these groups in terms of what, even just within our own ACSA structures, about what influence and what responsibility to have. Absolutely.
So Dr. Zazueta, I appreciated all the great things that you said, but as you know, we're in some challenging times as it relates to diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, justice, all of the things, and some times really steeped in opposition. So I wanted to ask you this. So what challenges or resistance has the organization ACSA encountered in this work, and how have we worked to address it?
Well, how much time we have? No,
it's loaded, huh?
I know. Yeah. No, I think this is, and in all seriousness, as I reflect on this, I think this issue right here, and I have to be very honest and transparent, I think it caught me a little off guard, is I knew there was resistance there, but this in so many ways has become the hardest part of this job, I talk about the trend right there that we would go back to even the origins of this work here at ACSA. And like I said, I hate to use the word trendy, but I do think that it became trendy in some quarters, like we got to make sure we have a DEI person. We got to make sure we have somebody that's doing this work. And, and I think it's due to a variety of factors. I mean, everything that happens in our school system is just a reflection of these bigger struggles that are happening in just our broader society and community. And I think that's what we've been facing, right? And how quick that swing came, where we went from this celebration of this work. And again, why did we embark upon this work? You didn't need to look no further in this state than just to for all the great things. And I think our members, our educators are the first to acknowledge this, for all the things that where we have moved the needle. All you have to do is look at the achievement rates for Black and brown kids, for kids with disabilities, you name it, LGBTQ, the vulnerability on that front. I could go on and on. There's still so much of need. It's not like this work happened and we solved it, right? And then we could shut it off. And I think what just caught me off guard, and it was I think a slow burn. I think we go back to the pandemic. We joked about those early days of the lunch break and so much of our programming. And we would get some of those views on, the reopening of schools, when we would start getting, some of the pushback about some of the mitigation efforts. And that's where we started seeing, I think, the slow embers of some of this larger sentiment. I used to think that it was okay, maybe it's just, folks representing, we live in a very diverse state, and, there's a variety of opinions and perspectives there. But I think what I came to realize, even amongst our membership, and I'm not afraid to say this, that there's, not everybody agrees with all the things that we say, right? And I think that's where it caught me off guard, where I started getting questions. What turned talk about the pandemic and some of these other issues slowly turned to, hey, why is ACSA? Yeah, and this is a quote, getting emails. When did ACSA become so woke? Why does ACSA all we have to talk about is race or gender or equity? Why can't we just talk about teaching and learning? And this became I hate to say it was a commonplace just to be getting these inquiries from our members. Anytime we would put something out in our publications about any of these issues, we'd get viewer response. I know Tracie and I have referred to them, we would get love letters, right? We'd get love letters from and these are our members. So I think that has been the bigger challenge. And again, this is no surprise, because these are and I got this from Nicole, talking about Nicole. I used to refer to these things, it's the culture wars, the whatnot. And she said it in one of the presentations she did for us. I stopped referring to it as culture wars. It's the cultural differences, right? It's the differences that people are bringing to these spaces. I think we started to see that as a byproduct of just those bigger discussions that we're having across our society. But with that said, I have to say that the flip side of that is the leadership. And when I say the leadership of this organization, our board of directors, folks like Parveen Amadi, everybody that's come, like, they really doubled down that, like, we may, and as I think we just wrote a EdCal article on this a month or so ago, about in light of all of the pushback on DEI and folks having to change names or have to disguise the work, that at ACSA, we're committed to this. We're not going to hide from it, right? It is. And even it, and I know this is controversial to say, even if that means that some of our members may decide that this is not the place for them, right? Because and that's their right. We are going to strive to when we mean all kids, whether and diverse needs, but that we're committed to this work. We are sensitive to the different opinions on this, but like as I started with this, that it's not like the need has gone away. And so, yes, there's that reflection about how can we be strategic and broaden this umbrella to make sure everybody recognize the importance. But I'm really fortunate that I work for a board and leadership that, despite, you see how many private organizations, public organizations, look what's happening in the higher ed level, right? That people are walking away from this work or having to change the name or whatnot. The leadership here at ACSA has recommitted to this and saying that this is something that we need to continue to do.
I'm really, I was very touched and, and of course cheering from the back, and especially in the earlier conversations about, where we're going and the fact that ACSA is doubling down and we want to increase support. We have a number of networks that support administrators in different spaces, right? And in different places. Our LGBTQ plus network, whether you are of the community or want to be an ally and co-conspirator, it's a place for you to affect this work. And one of the things, right, Edgar, is that we come together around students.
Mm-hmm.
That is our common denominator. And the fact that we want to be able to support all students through this work, like, it's really important. I love the work of Dr. John Powell and at UC Berkeley and the aspect of targeted universalism. I think that's a concept where, folks don't always understand, but really just quickly, right? If you focus on the most marginalized, all of the work that supports them actually like reverberates out and then supports everyone else. But as we know, that there's this notion of power that, some folks feel like they are giving up. But you know what? I'd say that there's an infinite amount of power.
Yeah.
So many conversations to be had. But I appreciate all of the things that you've laid out. So the next question is really, what's next?
Yeah.
Neri, this might be my evaluation, or maybe my
no pressure. Neri, shout out to Neri, by the way. The number one supporter across all of our platforms here. We could always count on Neri, giving us some views, but also, just the support he gives this organization and the work he's put in serves on so many of our planning committees, and just tremendous energy. So shout out to Neri. Yeah, what's next? I mean, I think it's really, how do we sustain this work? It's really what's the next chapter of it. And again, calling on the same theme, and this is right in both of yours. I know part of the heart of the work that you're doing, because you are the center, and that's why we brought both of you in, to really center us in terms of what do we have to do to continue to sustain and elevate the work. And things like, for example, I joke about like we have no shortage of demand for all of our programs, our academies, our professional development, our conferences. We could easily just roll out the same curriculum, do the same things, and chances are, we're going to fill up our seats, we're going to fill up our programs, and we could call it a success. And credit under Dr. Noriega's leadership, and one of the things that she really sought out to do here as she came into the position is that this mirror work, right? Like taking this hard look at, are we still meeting the needs of our members through all of the programs? And that takes very many different shapes, right? It's, are we touching the right folks who, really using data to see who's coming to our professional learning activities, who's enrolling in our academies, right? Are we getting that next generation on those folks? So just being much more sophisticated on that front. Also things of who is it that we're putting in front of our members, right? Like this is one of those important pieces to say that, you know, ACSA is a family. And sometimes what we've seen is folks, and this is not necessarily a bad thing, but being cognizant of how do you get in a position to be an instructor or to be a director for these academies? Are those folks reflective of the changing demographics and the changing needs of our community? So I think just doing that, I know, Anthony, I know you're hard at work on an audit of all of our activities. I think that sometimes that could be scary to folks, right? When you're doing it to yourself. But I think it's not based on any pressure. It's like, we could sit on our laurels and just be proud of this, and, you know, and then to look at all this great work we've done. But I think for us, his next step is like, how do we get better? How do we reach those people that aren't attending that? And I think that's probably the hardest part. I know this is a common theme. How do we be strategic enough to get this message to those folks who probably need it the most, who aren't tuning in to the conscious classroom, who aren't maybe attending, you know, who aren't going to go into our equity conferences, aren't going to lead with pride? How do we make sure, because oftentimes it's their kids, it's their students, they may need our services, they may need our resources the most. So I think that's the place that we continue on to see how do we make this umbrella bigger and really touch more of our members in the field.
Do you have something very specific that you think you want to see in like 3 years or 5 years?
Yeah.
You know, what's that lofty goal?
Yeah.
Dr. Noriega and future Dr. Robinson in 5 years, we want to see this. I want to see this.
I think once we get a handle of this data, and I think what we're going to see, you know, even just in terms of what we're interestingly, how we're represented against our 19 regions and whatnot. And I think what we're going to find when we look at all of our program and we have that data is that it, you know, with some exceptions, because we know and we've heard from our members that it may be clustered, whether it be in particular parts of the state or particular communities or whatnot. I think for me is how do we, across our 58 counties or across our 19 regions, to make sure that we have this work embedded in every one of our parts, right? Does that mean there's some differentiation? Does that mean that this could look slightly different and whatnot? Just almost like some of our councils are now represented. But I think for me, it is that this is really that the footprint. And when we talk about embedding this work, that is truly in a true statewide effort. I think for me is if we could expand that network, I think that's when we know, okay, we've moved the needle there.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Zazueta, we're running low on time, so
Yeah,
I have a final question.
I could talk a little. When I'm not asking the
no, you're good. I'm saying that for me because we can have this conversation all day, but I know we don't have all day. So, in order to be effective in this work, obviously we need commitment, but more importantly, we need collaboration.
Yes.
And so there are plenty of folks who either don't know how to jump in, don't know how to start. And there are folks who have started, but they don't know how to move to that next step. So the question is, what message do you have for educators across the state who are looking to either begin their journey or looking to deepen their journey?
Yeah, I think for everybody that is wedded to this work, and this is, I think so much about the things that have happened, not just in the education space, but even in this country over the last 12 months. And we've talked a lot about today about this kind of the backlash towards DEI. I think the first place that I think we can really learn some lessons, even what we saw in like the national political landscape, to do some grounding about what this work is about, right? I think sometimes, is people stop at the titles. People stop at the acronym, and they shut us off with, oh, here we go. They're just going to, but what is it that we're talking about? Why did we embark on this journey to begin with? And I think, and I've yet, there's some people who philosophically may just think differently. And, you hear the perspectives like, well, why can't we talk about all kids and whatnot? And of course we are, right? Of course we're worried about the needs of all students. But I think every educator, especially those at the site level, especially those in local communities, I think the first place to really be an ambassador to this work is to be that liaison, to be the ambassador of why this work is important, and that it's not just as the research. I know all of us, in our academic journeys and whatnot, like we have the benefit of seeing all the studies, how this, DEI work doesn't just benefit those kids that it's impacting, it benefits the whole communities, right? But even if you get away from the research and whatnot, just from what people see in their own schools and their own community, I think that is the best type of evangelism, right? That how doing this work is going to benefit all of us, that it's going to benefit our state, that there's no community in the state across those 58 counties where there's not some need to do some sort of DEI work. And I think my second message is, like, especially at a time where it's really easy to get disillusioned because there is so much of this counteraction towards it, is it kind of like similar to this, and this is credit to you guys, because trying to build that community is find your people who are also in the fight, and just for those tough days. And I know that's the beauty of ACSA, not just ACSA, but our partners at the affinity groups, and it's a reminder that we got to be strategic, we got to do this together. But also I'm sure we're in for some more ebbs and flows here, right? And we haven't seen the last of it. But how are we going to respond to that adversity, right? What is that going to do to our efforts to really move this forward? I would say, just so on one front, don't stop educating. And then two, don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged, find that community to keep this up.
That's a great way to end, Dr. Zazueta. We owe you an honorarium for what you just dropped on us today. Thank you
this
so
is great.
much.
I appreciate the work you're doing, and it's fun to be on the other side of this and get to answer some questions. I'm gonna give the other people, like, I don't think Yvonne's ever asked me to be on his show. I don't think there's a guy, Naj had his own show. You guys are the first ones who asked me on, so I'm gonna take that up with them. But no, just again, a huge congratulations here on this early effort. Appreciate all our members who are part of this bigger community, and let's keep it going.
Yes, and you can also catch Dr. Edgar Zazueta on a legislative lunch break. So if you loved what you heard here today, catch him on his own show.
Nigel promoted like 10 times on other venues, so I'm sure you can't miss that too. So.
Absolutely.
So much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you.
All right, Dr. Noriega. So we're getting ready to wrap, but I know we have Summer Leadership Institute coming up, so I'll kick it to you.
Yes, it is this summer. It is the place to be, and talk about mirror work. So I am just inviting all of the new assistant principals, new principals. Maybe you have a new school site team. Send them our way, because we have amazing lineup of folks that are really going to set the tone for. Oh, where am I? Happened?
You're still on.
Am I on?
You're still on.
It's
all right. We're live.
Live. We have an amazing lineup that's going to support our attendees with figuring out what their leadership philosophy is. What a lot of times new administrators don't necessarily realize is that who they are as people, their lived experiences, their belief system rolls into the decisions that they make, right, at school sites, and the decisions that they make, especially when it comes to their students. So we also have this amazing deal, because I know that at school districts, some of your processes are closed, but hopefully you can work around that a little bit. We did this installment plan option where we're willing to work with all of you to bump into the next fiscal year if you need that. So please reach out and talk to our director, Elaine Cervantes, or any of her staff. And hopefully we get to see you at University of Laverne this summer. I'll be there, and it's going to be another fun time.
Absolutely. And I think we had a QR code on that Summer Leadership Institute flyer. Can we bring that up real quick? So if you're interested, again, as Dr. Noriega said, we will be at the University of Laverne in Laverne, California. Southern California will be there from June 23rd through the 27th. So there is the QR code for you. if you want to take a picture of that. Obviously, if you're not watching us live, you can slow your video down or stop it so that you can scan that. So again, thank you so much. We want to make sure that we honor your time. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. But before I wrap us up, I want to let you know, if you have not read the latest issue of EdCal, you can find me in there. I wrote this month's Equity Corner about rest. So, we've been talking about rest. We've been talking about mirror work. We've been talking about resistance. All of that is embedded. So if you don't have a physical copy, catch it online. But we're going to go ahead and let you all go. We will see you back in 2 weeks. We have some amazing guests coming up. So please make sure you're tuned in. I know the summer is approaching. I know you're tired, but we're going to give you some tips on how to stay rested, but also how to rejuvenate yourself. So we're going to go ahead and head out. We appreciate you watching. Catch us in 2 weeks. See you later. Peace.
Peace.